Hello again, everybody. This is Jerry Serino of From the Median podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening. Please check us out at fromthemedian.org, all of our social media as well on Cleveland Right to Life, and all the different podcast apps. Just search for From the Median, and you'll find us. And we'd love to have you listening, and you'll be able to follow along and see where we're playing in all the different radio stations. So really appreciate you all being here and supporting our show. My guest today is Eliza Monts. She is a speaker and a Substack bestseller on Catholicism and culture. And I think she has a lot of great things to say. And she's joining me today. Eliza, thank you.
Thank you for having me, Jerry.
Yes, my pleasure. So let's begin with telling us a little bit about yourself.
I am a lifelong Catholic who identifies as Catholic first, wife, daughter, friend, etc. second, and writer third. I have an upcoming book with Penguin Random House's Catholic imprint called Just Because You Exist, 12 Encounters for Greater Intimacy, 12 Gospel Encounters for Greater Intimacy with Jesus. That's landing on bookshelves next May. It still feels a while away, but I know that time will just fly by. And as aside from the book writing, which is just the thrill of a lifetime, I've been wanting to be a writer of many, many books ever since I was a kid. I publish twice a week to Substack, where, as you mentioned earlier, I hone in on the intersection between Catholicism and what's happening in our modern culture. And it's very Catholic social teaching focused. Not necessarily that I cite my sources because that's intellectually honest, but it's not necessarily that I'm writing, this week we're going to learn about subsidiarity, though that's important. It'll be, this is happening in the world, in the news and pop culture right now. What do we know from the body of Catholic social teaching that touches on this issue? And I find a lot of excitement and passion there. And the things that I put on Instagram are in that similar vein. The things that I speak about at events also in that similar vein.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, great job. I'm on your Substack page here. If you go to elizawritesthings.substack.com, that's where you can find it. It'll be all on fromthemedian.org if you're driving and didn't get all that. But Eliza Writes Things, just search that and you'll find it all sorts of places. Yeah. So a couple things. I'm looking at your site and I'm looking at some of your articles that you're writing. A couple of things that kind of stick out is you're writing on AI, and it's kind of interesting because it's at kind of a new area. Pope Leo just had an encyclical about AI, which is so unique, because especially in the realm of faith, Catholicism, Christianity, whatever, it's interesting that we're talking about AI. Right, and how that relates to do. So, give us some sort of perspective on what you're writing about and the importance of understanding AI.
Yes. So, I'll start with the important caveat is I would consider myself probably better informed on the inner workings of AI and the ethics of AI than others, not because I claim to be intellectually superior or something, but because my dad is a doctor at our local hospital and has taken on a role as an AI ethicist as it applies to medicine. He has a background in computer programming, and so it's just a natural love for how can we use AI to cure cancer and not make every doctor in our hospital not use their own brain and instead just click yes or no on how an AI diagnoses a patient, and let's not have robot nurses trying to do bedside manner and things like that. And so it runs in the family. I mean, my sister and I have been receiving tech conversations from our dad since childhood, and I have been learning about AI before a lot of my peers have, at least anecdotally, thanks to my dad. And so I'm able to come from that place, and I also am very, very just interested in it anyway, especially as a writer. When I first started noticing the onset of writers using AI at any stage in the writing process, I was like, oh, I don't like that. And I was having a conversation with someone about this just earlier today of writing isn't just the final product. It's not just the final draft. It's coming up with the idea, doing the research, making your first draft, editing, making every word have a purpose and sound exactly the way you want to communicate something. Then you have the final draft. And So both as someone who's the daughter of an AI ethicist and really loves writing, and pretty early on, the kind of the first things we were hearing about writing in culture or about AI in our culture was, oh, now AI is doing the writing instead of human beings, and now AI is making these not very good looking like graphic design things slop. Like my favorite one was it. It used to be that it might still be that when you look at the Wikipedia page for AI slop, it's just Jesus, but he's composed of shrimp under the sea. And that image doesn't need to exist. We don't need an image of
Right.
Jesus made up of shrimp under the sea. Even if a
Right.
human
Right.
being wanted to draw that, I don't know why they would, except to be silly. But anyway, I started caring about AI deeply earlier on because of those two things. And that's the perspective that I come from. And the Vatican has released writing about AI before Pope Leo had his encyclical. Antiqua et Nova was by, I think, two of the dicasteries worked on it together, but I can't remember which ones. That was January 2025. So we still have Pope Francis. And it really was introducing, it was not the first time that the Vatican had mentioned AI because Pope Francis had mentioned it a few times prior, but it was the first big document about it.
Okay.
And then we had earlier this spring one from the Theological Commission, I think was the name. It's not a dicastery, but it's a body of a lot of lay people and religious from all over the world who write really big theological things, and they only put out a paper once every 2 years, and or not 2 years, once every few years, and they're always really, really long. They wrote one called Quo Vadis Humanitas, which means Where Are You Going, Humanity, which is a title that kind of makes me chuckle, and it's all about not only AI, but also transhumanism, posthumanism. They even, without using the word looksmaxing, they even touched on the phenomenon of looksmaxing, of particularly young men just doing whatever it takes to try to have that perfectly sculpted and swole body, even at the destruction of their own souls, which I thought was really fascinating. So all that was leading up to then Pope Leo writing about AI this May. And so by the time I started getting interested enough in talking about AI publicly, not just at dinner table conversations with my parents or among friends and my husband, the Vatican had already released Antiqua et Nova and Quo Vadis Humanitas, or they had already released Antiqua et Nova, and I really started ramping up talking about AI after Quo Vadis Humanitas because they also mentioned AI in that too. And of course, it was really, really exciting when Pope Leo was elected and said, I picked the name Leo because Leo the 13th helped usher the church through the Industrial Revolution, and I want to help guide the church through the fourth Industrial Revolution of AI. And that's been so exciting for me to see. And Pope Leo, as well as all these other Vatican documents, as well as the whole body of Catholic social teaching, is so beautiful in how they notice the life of people in the church isn't just like theology things are somewhere up here and then down here are issues in the world, and they're totally separate and they don't talk to each other and have nothing to do with each other. It's theology issues, if you want to imagine them kind of clouds up in the sky, totally inform everything that we do here in the world, every decision we make. They ought to be the things informing how we choose to vote. And the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops said as much in their Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship document that they updated last in 2024, but have had many times, I think since the 90s at least. And so AI is certainly not at all excluded from that. It's not that church is doing its own thing, AI is this other thing that's happening, and they don't talk to each other. Pope Leo makes it so clear in his encyclical, and the other Vatican documents do too, that how we approach AI matters, and it has to be for the fullness of humanity to be honored and protected.
Yeah, no, very, very well put. That is, again, that's a good point because there's so much. If you made the point about the previous Pope Leo, who was Pope during the Industrial Revolution. Well, wonderful thing, good thing, but like everything that we do and experience, we want to do in the right way, right? We want to. Okay, we're in an industrial revolution, right? Great. Let's make sure we treat people properly, treat workers properly, safely, give them, the humanity they deserve. And so the same thing here with AI as well. Do you have a favorite topic to write about? Like if you were forced to write about one, and I know you could say, well, Catholicism, yes, but I mean, even within that, is there a topic
Yeah.
that you would love if you were forced, you could do only that?
I it it shifts over the years. I've been writing publicly since 2020, and it has shifted over the years. Right now, it's AI, and that's because I'm not anecdotally. I don't like have statistics on this or anything like that, but anecdotally, I have not seen many Catholics talking about it in a way that's intellectually honest and invigorating. Pope Leo is talking about it, and he's the top dog Catholic in terms of getting people's global attention, and that's so exciting. But anecdotally, again, among my friend groups, among friends on the internet, and other people I see having conversations on the internet, there's not a lot of healthy criticism of AI that Pope Leo talks about in the encyclical and says we should be talking about. And so I tend to, not because I want to be a contrarian, but because, it's just a tenet of academic work is you're supposed to contribute something new to the ideas that already exist. And so I really like to talk about things that I don't notice a lot of other people talking about, try to contribute new things rather than regurgitate the same thing everyone else is already saying. And there's certainly room and a need to to repeat topics that are so timeless and that always need to be talked about, like abortion being really, really terrible for the mom and also killing the life of a baby. I don't know that could ever be talked about enough. Even if we were able to reach a day where there were literally 0 abortions ever happening in our country or in the whole world, I would still hope that we would talk about it, that we would remember that that humanity had permitted this really terrible thing and that we're not going to go back. Which reminds me similarly to the Holocaust. Holocaust survivors continue to pass away every single day, but one of the big things of kind of the mantras of Holocaust history, Holocaust memory is never forget. Never forget that humanity did this thing this one time and we are never going to go back. So we need to never stop talking about that. I went a little bit on a tangent, but yeah, right now it's AI because I don't see as many people talking about it. But when I was first marrying my husband, it was about how I couldn't stop talking about how I once discerned vocations with the Sisters of Life. And then out of nowhere, this cute man who had been one of my good friends for many years asked me out on a date, and the rest is history. And how there's no such thing as one vocation being holier than another. The holiest thing you can do is God's will for you. And even though I'm not, wearing a religious habit and praying liturgy, I pray every day, of course, but not praying liturgy at the hours like clockwork at 5 a.m. or something like that. My vocation is still love and no less holy because it's what God has called me to do. So right now it's AI, but it changes all the time.
Yeah. Besides Jesus, because he's number one, of course, in as far as like a character or a person in the Bible, of course, he's number one. Besides him, do you have a favorite biblical person?
Mary Magdalene, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I feel like I need to offer the caveat though, besides Jesus and Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah.
Because of all
I'm with you.
And everything.
Yeah.
Mary, besides the two of them, I really relate to Mary Magdalene's passion and emotion. Probably not every time, but often when she's depicted in sacred art, she's thrown herself at the foot of the cross. Like Mary, the mother of Jesus, is standing there composed, and John is composed, but so often Mary Magdalene is just at the feet of the cross, crumpled over, or she's anointing Jesus' feet with oil, and so she's just bent over his feet, crumpled on the floor, or she's seeing Jesus for the first time as the first witness of the resurrection, and she's crumpled on the floor in front of the empty tomb. And that body posture is really powerful because it lets the viewer know that her love for Jesus, she lets it disarm her as it is also disarming. And I think that particular relationship with Jesus, and uniquely experienced relationship with Christ is really beautiful. And it reminds me of what Jesus invites me to as well with my own personality.
Yeah, great. So let's get a little bit of background. I want to ask about another article, although there's a lot, so people can go to ElizaWritesThings.substack.com, and see all the articles and follow for future articles as well. I'd like to ask just about, you mentioned your dad and his influence on you in regards to AI and your knowledge of AI. Tell me about your upbringing and the like, and your family, as much as you're willing to share, of course. Your journey. I did see that you were pursuing to being a nun, correct? And
A
until you
relationship,
met,
I confirmed it with the Sisters of Life.
yeah, you were discerning until this guy comes along, which often happens to people, right? There's someone else, which is fine. It's right, like you said, it's their vocations. um Tell me about that. I mean, have you always been strong in your faith? Is it because of your family's upbringing? When you were a teenager, were you just as vigorous? Or tell me that.
Yeah, my mom is Catholic, and Catholic going back multiple generations. We had a family reunion recently, and I think we counted at least 6 generations that we know of who were Catholic.
Okay.
And so it's passed down by women, which is really interesting. My granddad, funny enough, my mom's father was Quaker when he married my grandmother, and then converted afterwards. For a few other family members, it's that the wife was Catholic and the husband there's not. But sometimes they were both Catholic. It's just different. So it's kind of funny. It's passed down women to women. And my mom was very diligent about taking us to Mass every Sunday, which I'm so grateful for, and sent us to a Catholic school that was, for all the, oh, I went to Catholic school and it made me less Catholic. I went to Catholic school, I learned nothing about the faith stories that people might share. Me and my sister's Catholic school was very wonderful, family-focused environment in which we were really taught about the faith. And I remember receiving my first communion and first reconciliation, and knowing what was, as much as an 8-year-old can, knowing what was happening, and being truly well prepared for confirmation when I was in middle school, and understanding that the saints are my friends. And when I was a really little girl, it was like, oh, they're my imaginary friends, and I was playing with them on the playground. And eventually I pinpoint 16 as the year that Jesus gave me the maturity to kind of figure out what it means to, oh, my faith can be this thing I choose for myself, not just because my mom makes me go to church. I really think Jesus blessed me with a childlike faith before that point, and then helped me grow in the understanding of, apart from family, I can choose this for myself, and choose relationship with him established in prayer for myself. Which I really chalk up to a great summer camp I went to that was very, very rooted in Christ, and in helping campers understand what it meant to establish personal prayer lives and relationships with him, and a really great youth group at our Catholic church that did the same thing. Two really, really great. All across my childhood, I was blessed with Catholic institutions that, did not give me trauma. Not only did not give me trauma, not to imply that most do, but sadly that is some people, perhaps many people's stories, but that really helped feed relationship with Jesus. And thankfully I was able to carry that into college. Even though I went to a very Protestant Bible Belt South Carolina school where I could count on one hand the number of Catholics, that was okay, because I made friends with great Protestants who are still my best friends to this day and help point me to Christ, and whom we both decide to emphasize the things that we share more than the things that we disagree on, which I'm very thankful for. I was served as a missionary the year after college for my diocese. It was, if you're familiar with Net Ministries, it's like an in-house Diocese of Charleston for the state of South Carolina, Net Ministries. And so me and my fellow missionaries went to most of the parishes and Catholic schools in South Carolina, putting on retreats for the middle and high schoolers. And that was a really, really formative year, growing in greater understanding of church teaching. And I already had a really strong background, honestly, from good Catholic schools. But doing it for myself, not because it was my theology homework, but reading things about Catholic social teaching just because I wanted to. And the same year I finished out that mission year and started working in, quote, the real world of getting into marketing, was the year I was engaged to my husband. And in between that time, like I already mentioned, came discernment with the Sisters of Life, really thinking I would go that direction. Out of nowhere, future husband walks into the picture.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Men mess things up, right? Don't we? We just have a way of stepping it. No, obviously it's not a mess up, right? It's a good thing, right? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Okay. With the few minutes we have left, I want to ask about reasons that you stay Catholic. This program here is a pro-life show. It's not specifically a Catholic show. It certainly is Christian, of course. We have all sorts of people on, and we're not, taking sides. I am Catholic, so I get to have a little bit of control over these discussions. And I agree with you. I think I love our Protestant and friends, and they are unbelievably faithful and good, and they're very strong in the pro-life world too. We have so many similarities, but you went to a Protestant college, but you remain Catholic. So if I were to ask you, hey, there's all these Christian denominations, they all believe a lot of the same things. Eliza, why Catholicism?
Because we have Jesus fully alive in the Eucharist. In every single Catholic church across the world. I can drive 7-ish minutes to perpetual adoration, almost perpetual. It became unperpetual during COVID, and right now we're still at Monday through Friday, but we don't have Saturday, Sunday coverage, but hopefully soon. Yeah. Anyway, I can drive 7 minutes to almost entirely perpetual adoration at one of our local churches, and I can see Jesus face to face. And because this is something I've been really appreciating lately, Catholicism is just true. It's just true. I love that this might sound really anti-intellectual, but I love that I'm never left floating all alone or drowning in the ocean of trying to figure out some ethical or intellectual problem, because the church has already spoken on it. I don't have to put the burden upon myself of figuring out what is right and wrong, because even for AI, even for like super up-to-date kinds of things and social issues that are happening in real time, because the church is speaking on them and telling us how we ought to approach these things. And not some Protestant denominations have more of that oversight than others. But I love that I don't have to feel like an island intellectually or as far as moral ethics go, because the church has already said what needs to be said about it, and the church is just true. It's the seamless garment where every single thing of that what we believe and know and acknowledge to be true about the dignity of human life is integrated within one another. If you were to pull one thread out, if you were to decide, oh, I like everything else, but I think abortion should be okay. If you pull that one thread out, everything else falls apart too, because they're all connected. And that doesn't mean that they're all weak, but it means that it's intellectually consistent because it's just true. And you can see from the big smile on my face, that's just so invigorating to me.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that response. I appreciate it and agree 100%. Eliza Monts, again, please go to Eliza Writes Things. You can search on social media at Eliza Writes Things, and also elizawritesthings.substack.com, and find all of her writings. Eliza, it was a great conversation. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And thank all of you for listening to this episode of From the Median podcast. Please check us out at fromthemedian.org, and we will see you next time.